I thought it would be interesting to revisit some of the fragrances which I previously gave first impressions on. Oftentimes as reviewers, we're excited to give our take on brand new releases, but there's often not a lot of follow-up later to see if we still have the same opinions after living with the fragrances for a bit longer. So I thought I would come back and talk about them, see if my opinion has changed, if I've bought any. So the first one is probably the most controversial, Frederic Malle Uncut Gem. Now, I feel like I might have been one of the first to post about this because I was hounding the Frederic Malle boutique here. They let me try initially out of a little unmarked tester vial. So I really went in not knowing anyone else's opinion on it, and I gave it a generally positive review. Later, as the other reviews came in, I kind of thought, oh gosh, is this one going to discredit me? Because a lot of people really hate it. So as you can see, I did end up buying a bottle, so I must have liked it. And has my opinion changed? I'll say in general, not really. I still feel positively about it. I think obviously it's very controversial in that it leans very heavily on a single slug of ambrosinide. And I suppose it really depends how you feel or how you perceive that fragrance chemical. I think especially when a fragrance leans so heavily on a single material, opinions are even more divisive because the way people seem to perceive that material varies greatly. I remember some people saying they could barely smell it, while others saying it's cloying, it's so harsh, it goes on forever. So I wore it yesterday in preparation for this video, and I do enjoy it. I think I may have said this in my original video, but it kind of depends on the perspective from which you're coming. When I was getting into fragrance, I was really a fan of Comme des Garçons, the brand, and I was a fan of their fragrances. So I actually like something that is challengingly synthetic. I've said before, I like Byredo's M-Ink. It's the only Byredo I own. So I'm down for a challenging, interesting synthetic fragrance. I remember when I got into fragrances thinking, I like really avant-garde extreme stuff. And then I tried real animalics, funky civet things. I was like, oh, no, my tastes are actually conservative. So it's more that I'm down for a challenging kind of industrial smelling fragrance. Again, if it's done well. And to me, that's where this falls in the Frederic Malle line. Frederic Malle tends to be fairly classic. This to me is ultra modern. There was an ad image with sort of like a shiny, silvery, like water effect on it. And I think that perfectly represents how this smells to me. Where I do disagree with some other reviewers is I don't think in any way is it, one, a commercial release. I think it's very challenging even to an amateur nose. And two, I don't think it smells anything like mainstream designer releases like Sauvage. Some people say that. Again, our perception of this material seems to vary greatly. So I'm not saying they're wrong, but I'm just saying I strongly disagree with those takes. I find it a really interesting take on a super musky, silvery fragrance. It does have some connection to me with Musk Ravageur, but whereas that's all kind of pillowy human skin musks, this is maybe like the musks of like, who was it? Not adamantium, the steel guy from Terminator. Maybe this is his body smell. But I don't get that overly harsh metallic sense. There's actually something quite resinous, and I believe I mentioned this before as well, that ambrosinide is derived from labdanum. So I get something warm and resinous, and what's interesting about this fragrance to me is the way it really contrasts warmth with freshness. So there's kind of a strong, fresh smell to it. It's not really a blue smell, so that's why I'm struggling to describe it. That's contrasted with this sort of deep, resinous, almost smoky smell. I will say it lasts a really long time, and because of that, I sometimes hesitate to wear it. As you can see, I haven't really worn a whole lot of this, but I think if you go 1 or 2 sprays, it can be nice. I'm not a fan of layering, but I imagine this could be interesting with maybe a light citrus sprayed on top of it. So I like it. I still think it's an interesting piece of work. I think it's challenging in a good way. And I don't think it's commercial at all. So that's my take on Uncut Gem. A lot of people seem to mark this as the death of Frederic Malle selling out to Estee Lauder, but come on, he's been with Estee Lauder for 10 years by now. why would he suddenly cave with this release? And I do believe the story that it was something Maurice Roussel wore himself that they kind of reworked for release. So there's nothing commercial or market analysis about that to me. Anyway, I suppose we'll continue with the Frederic Malle Heaven Can Wait. I haven't gone for a bottle of this yet, but I do enjoy it. I brought it on, I guess, the holidays. I brought it with me when I was traveling and wore this a lot. Like a lot of Jean Claude Elena, I really enjoy how it wears. Again, the smell right away, I said before, wasn't something totally brand new to me. It reminded me a lot of Guerlain's Louis, and it still does. But whereas Louis stays very close to the skin, Louis feels very kind of thick and chewy. Heaven Can Wait really like projects, gives you that nice wafting cloud. I'm thinking I'll probably eventually go for a bottle, maybe coming into next fall or winter. I enjoy it. Again, I think it's not as interesting as Rose and Queer, which was really a departure for Jean Claude Elena and sort of signaled a new direction. Whereas this is a little bit more back to the old style. Although you could call it a departure in the fact that it's more warm, it's warming spices, rather than his previous kind of airy, fresh, cooling spices that he's known for. So I think a really solid release, if not the most exciting release, which is why I'm not in a huge hurry to go out and buy it. Okay, on to Dior's New Look. I've worn this a few more times as well. I don't have a whole lot more to say, except I think I like it a bit more than I gave it credit for at first. I think it's an interesting new take on aldehydes and incense. Like a lot of Francis Kurkdjian from the last several years, it feels like it lacks some heart. There's something just really cold and precise. But artistically, I kind of appreciate that he has such a strong viewpoint, this like coldness and precision, almost of like a watchmaker. And I think this is going to be an interesting alternative to citrus in the summer because it has that long-going freshness without relying on citrus or typical fresh notes. So I like it. Of course, it's expensive. Is it worth the price? Are any of these worth the price? Almost nothing's worth the price anymore. But just purely as a fragrance, as a statement, as an entry into recent releases, I think it's a good one, if not a great one. Well, I should say a good one, not a great one, period. Onto a recent try, but I've worn more now, Acne Studios by Frederic Malle. This one I like slightly less. I think I had my expectations fairly low, and when I got a whole lot of violet, the opening is really quite big. I thought, ooh, this is a lot more interesting. It's got more florals than I expected. It's not just a pure, clean, boring laundry scent. I will say I found the performance a little strange. It was like a very steep drop off after a few hours. The first hour or two, I thought, oh, this is going to be a really strong fragrance. This is going to last all day. But it's the kind that didn't make kind of a gradual slope throughout the day. It's more like after 3-4 hours, it was just almost gone completely, leaving a little bit of a trace musk. It's possible I went nose blind because of the kind of strength of those first few hours. But that surprised me a bit, and I started to feel a little cold by the dry down, and also I started to feel a sweetness creeping in with the violets, which goes a little bit in that violet candy territory and takes it into a little bit more of like a juvenile direction that I don't love. Again, at the price, it's not worth it to me. I might pick it up if I find it cheaper. I may have mentioned this before, but life-changing discovery that the cosmetics company store, which is the outlet for Estee Lauder, I never realized they have Frederic Malle, and there's big famous outlets outside of New York I went to, and they had a whole bunch of Frederic Malle, especially Synthetic Jungle. So I think some of the new releases get dumped there more than the old ones. So if I come across a bottle there, for sure, I would pick it up for $100 or $200, kind of worth it for a fresh warm weather spritz, but another one I'm not in a rush to run out and buy. Now let's take a dive to Guerlain. This is the great shame in my closet, Guerlain Millissima Iris. I'm pretty sure I quite trashed this when I tried it. It was warm, I think it was August or September, and it was still quite hot out, and I just thought, oh gosh, this is so cloying and sweet, get it off me. I kept thinking about it though. I started craving a vanilla this winter. I started diving into Guerlain's catalog, and it occurred to me, wait, maybe is that vanilla I've been looking for? Was it Shalimar Iris all along? And I kind of gave up on it after seeing it sell out on some of the websites where I frequently purchase. And some of you may know it very kind of comically appeared on QVC when I was just Googling it. They had a sale. It included a Shalimar body lotion, which already retails for $60. And I couldn't resist and I got it. Now, I more or less still agree with my initial opinion that it's very sweet, but in really cold weather, I did enjoy it. There's something warm and cozy. I felt a little bit not like myself wearing this kind of scent profile, but what saves it for me from being a total flop is the sweetness really is caramelized, so there's kind of a burnt depth to it that I appreciate. That gives it, a little more depth, a little more maturity than it might seem at first sniff. I still don't really get iris. I suppose it's ethyl maltol, but the caramel note just bulldozes everything for me. But it lasts and lasts and lasts and lasts for days on clothes and on skin. But ultimately for the price, I'm glad I picked it up. I don't have anything else like this in my wardrobe, and it kind of fulfills a guilty pleasure of a sweet, warm, comforting fragrance for me. Just two more left here. Here I only have small sample vials. Neroli Plein Sud. On the other hand, this one only got more and more annoying to me. I'm not sure what's in the base. They say they have this special extraction of neroli, but it comes off as very scratchy, woody to me. The dreaded Amber Woods dry down. I'm not sure if I'm the only one that gets that, but the opening is quite nice. It smells neroli, it smells lavender, it smells fresh. It smells a lot like Le Labo's Lavande, which I said and then saw later quite a few other people mention it too, so I'm not alone in that. But the dry down just starts to smell so cheap and even annoying to the point where I want it to go away after a few hours. And along those lines, same feelings about Tobacco Honey. To me, I'll take the sweetness of Millissima Iris over Tobacco Honey. It just smells so generic, just like this generic, sweet, I don't know, honey is a difficult note, I'm coming to realize, because it just doesn't go away and it seems to get cloying, and it seems like even a drop of it just takes over fragrance profiles, at least for me. I can see why it kind of became a little bit of a runaway hit with the YouTubers, because it's mega strong, it's mega projecting, it's mega sweet, but it kind of encapsulates everything I hate about modern fragrances. So Tobacco Honey is a big, big no, as is Neroli Plein Sud. So I think that's all for now. Again, I didn't massively change my mind on anything, except maybe the irony that I bought this one that I panned. Maybe it's a little bit of FOMO, I'm not above admitting that, but mostly it's about filling a gap in my wardrobe, having something unlike anything else I have that I enjoy smelling from time to time. So that's my review. Are there any fragrances that you've tried before that you changed your mind, love or hate about these new releases or anything else? Let me know.